Come on, Nils. That's it. Is good. That's it. That's it. This is the bad event. We're gonna get 80 people in Stockholm sick tonight. We have to wait for 6 sharp because we are live streaming. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're starting at 6 sharp because, as you know, the event is live streamed on our blog. So we're like on a TV live show. So I would like first to start with thanking people who have made this event possible. The speakers that are here that you will discover across the day, also people who were instrumental in making this happen, like Niclas and Jerry, who have not been able to make it tonight, but they've really made this event possible as well, along with Delphine, who is unfortunately hasn't been able to join because he has been an unfortunate back problem, and Heidi. So all these people have really made it possible tonight, and FKDV, who's helping us with the video and the stream, has been supporting us as well. So the topic tonight is influencer marketing. So if you allow me, I'm going to start by introducing ourselves and introducing Traackr, and then we're going to start talking more about the practice itself. So my name is Nicolas Chabot. I head Traackr in Europe. Who is Traackr? Traackr is, we're still a startup company. We're very small. We like to call ourselves a post-web 2.0, whatever that means really. And the objective that we're trying to achieve is to understand the web around the people who make the web. So Traackr is a people-centric tool. Okay? And what Traackr is useful at is we help brands connect with the people who are important to them. The platform goes from discovery, finding the people, but we also really want to help our users to engage with people and manage their relationship over time, because we believe in relationship. We believe in that technology can help business manage relationship in a more scalable way, and with more depth with people. We believe that marketing and communication should own this relationship. We believe they are really an important part of the presence on the brand now. We believe that relationship and content work together. I know we have some people who work on content in the room. We believe that the two are really one of the same. And we also believe that the market is overwhelmed, and I'm sure very few people in this room will actually disagree with that. So we really need to help our marketing professionals to have more time to focus on just relationships rather than just managing spreadsheets or data, and be more hands-on with the engagement. So the objective of Traackr is really to empower the marketer to have more impact. So, for example, and this is the only you will see of Traackr tonight, but Traackr will help you find people. Okay, so for example, here this list has been built around the topic of digital marketing and social media marketing. So we're proud to have Fefe here with us tonight, who comes first on the list. When I say building, understanding people, you see also how we're trying to go into understanding in details all the networks, channels that people use to communicate and share content on the web. So we're not just looking at one channel or another, we're looking at that person. When we look at Fefe, we look at his impact, the impact he has across all the different channels that he uses, and you can see that he has a fairly comprehensive activity. That means that you will be able to build your library of the people who are important to you. All the people here are here tonight, I think. So this is somehow how maybe years at Traackr we will actually try to manage and keep engaging with you over time beyond just what made us meet each other tonight. What we also try to do is to understand how people connect with each other. So within this assembly, who is actually engaging with each other? Do you know each other? Do you communicate with each other? Who is the most influential of you in this room? Who has most impact? Who drives most discussions? For example, Brit here is probably one of the most impactful people in this meeting. She's really gets a lot of impact within the quad of people that is assembled here. But Traackr is not just about finding and mapping people, it's really to helping you engaging at the right time. So we try to help you understand what your influencers talk about, what is interesting to them, how do they talk about your brand, how do they talk about the topics that are important to you so that you can engage with them in real time. We want you to be always on with your people. We want that relationship to be an ongoing relationship. And obviously, and that's, I think, a key topic of our panel tonight, is how do we help you measure the impact that you're having? And that graph is fairly interesting. This is based on a list of people who've registered to this event, and we're tracking mentions of that are here of digital marketing, social media, PR, and we've tracked also mention of influencer and influencer marketing. And we see, interestingly, that during the month of August, all mentions go down because it's summertime and you're all on your little island in Stockholm. But we see that really influencer marketing hasn't been driving a lot of discussions around the people here. And what you see is when you start to build up activity to this event, then the number of people that actually talk about influence and influencer marketing have go up to the point that last week it was the main part of conversations of people in this assembly. So it's really a very simple demonstration about how starting to engage people and measuring the activity can really help you understand the conversations that are happening out there. One thing also that we wanted to announce today, and I don't want to do my Steve Jobs. Traackr has been actually operating in Sweden for some time. We have number of customers here in the room. But what we're announcing tonight is that we will now be covering the whole of the Nordic country. Like as what of a person we met this morning said, we said, oh, we're going to cover Scandinavia. I said, oh, that's a strange country. So we're going to cover all the 4 different languages. Denmark, Finland, and Norway are now available as well in Traackr. We understand that Stockholm is a bit of a hub as well for managing marketing operation across the different Nordic countries. So I think it's important service for you guys to be able to manage your marketing opportunities just across all these countries. The agenda for tonight, we will welcome Brit on stage and start to and have a discussion about the importance of influencer marketing for brands. Sarah will then follow to talk about the especially how to increase your influencer marketing by involving your employees and how employees advocacy is important to brands. Fefe will then be on stage with his skateboard. Surprise. And then Nils will share with us a case study that is built around influencer, and that's a very interesting story. Then we have a short break and a panel discussions with that Peter will lead, and where Jeanette will join us from the Swedish Kommunikatoren. I don't know how do you say that. but the association of the PR agencies, I understand that. And we're going to talk about measurement and how do you actually measure influence and what does it mean for your ROI. And then most importantly, then we have the opportunity to share a few drinks. Okay. Brit, please join us. Oh, before that, sorry, please join, make yourself comfortable. Have your microphone. Rules of the day. There is a free Wi-Fi accessible for everyone. It's United Spaces Guest. The password is United Spaces 2014. So you're encouraged to share your thoughts using the hashtag Traackr SE. Sam here will be running a small competition to understand who in this room is the most active Twitter using the hashtag, and the winner will get a free trial to Traackr, but most importantly 1 hour with Sam. Ladies, please get started. The event is visible on the live stream, and then we will be able to share the content from tonight's event on our blog as well. So, and the keynotes and presentation will be shared as well, so there's no need to take deep notes as well. Okay, Brit, let's get started. Please.
Where do you want me?
Here, please.
In the light.
In the light.
You got the instructions from them.
In the light, because we're on TV.
Mm-hmm.
So, does everyone know Brit? Brit, do you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Did you see that really serious nod? I'm a media strategist and author, and specialized in social media in different ways. But most importantly, I believe, is that I've been working with the internet as long as internet has been around. So social media is just a natural development, part of the development, I guess.
All right.
Yeah.
So when we when you look at the way brands have started to address social media, which is not a very long time ago, I think they really immediately started to focus on trying to get some reach. So how do I get in front of as many eyeballs as possible? Brands are really have this media focus where they want to be put in front of a lot of people. So they've invested in their Facebook page. They've sort of acquired fans and in very different ways. So in that context, how do you explain to brands that influencer marketing, like talking to a few people, actually makes sense for them?
Oh, they know that already from before. It's sort of, you always have had these people that see things first and run the fastest. So it's only the aspect of involving them in a structured way, even when it comes to social media. And then I think it's always good to put it in a context. I mean, that's if you look at just common principles as the Pareto principle, where you always have had the fact that 20% are acting upon things and 80% are followers. And then we know on the web you usually say that 90% are the silent watchers, 9% are the ones that actually comment and interact, and 1% is creating content. So it's a way of making your job a bit easier. And that is if you look at the output you do. But then I think it's a huge responsibility for each company to not go blind on the different tools where you can start valuing your audience or your customers, because at the end of the day, you still have a fact that each client, each customer you meet is as important. They should get a good service, no matter how much they are valued in different score methods as well.
You're right. And there's different ways that people can impact your business.
Yeah.
But you said, I think I noted that 1% of the people really, at the end of the day, are the one that create that original content. So I guess these are the people that you will be interested in. So when you start, if you identify these people, you start working with them, what can you expect from them as a brand? What should you pursue? What should be your objective?
Well, I would say above all business development. If you actually have this ability to listen what they say and what they interact and the insights they give you, they are such a great tool for actually your future products and so on. Besides the fact that they are good for marketing or whatever aspects you have for your perspective. Maybe you want to just, if you're a government, you want them to be information providers to their network, depending on their target groups and so on. But to see how much they really give you fantastic insights to your coming products is so important, or your services.
Okay, so what you're saying is that these people should not just be there to amplify your message, but they're also a great source of information that you should use. Yeah.
And they should be developed, they should be included early in the process as well. So you should really make them part of what you plan and use the fact that they will give you so brilliant insights in every aspect of what you do. They are your ambassadors, and they should be somebody you have very close to you.
It's true. So if I play devil's advocate, the main challenge that you see on influencer marketing is scalability. In the sense that, okay, I can speak to 1, 2, 3, 4 people, I can listen to them, but, is that going to impact my brand in a significant enough way somehow? So in the view of that challenge, what do you think should be the role of influencer marketing in the social, in a brand's like global marketing strategy?
Well, first of all, I think you need to have a deep insight to the fact that they are such strong distributors. They are, at the end of the day, a great distribution channel themselves. But it's so much easier to do things that as you have always done them, and be very focused on the things you want to put out on the market in the different communication steps. But here you should be involving them very early, and also have a leeway in the time you have that you actually can act upon the things that will follow to the reactions.
Okay, that's interesting. So so we are live streamed. It is 6:15. So we are really in the middle of the day in the US. So a lot of the people who are actually listening to us today are based in America. And the people in America say they're very advanced compared to Europe. So, and what we found today meeting some of our customers is that actually you guys in Sweden are doing a really amazing job. You really get it in the way you handle these relationships. So what I'd like to understand from you, Brit, is what are the specificities, if there are any, about working with people, working with influencers in Sweden? Is it different in Sweden, Norway, Finland, Denmark, or give us a bit of a? Do you have an opinion on the specificities of the Nordic countries?
No, it's such a fantastic opportunity to work in countries where you have a smaller language. That makes these possibilities even huger than if you talk about America or English speaking. It's wonderful to have a small language group, and you also have a great tradition in Sweden from how you build societies. It's very much built around grassroots movements, and those kind of aspects, when they get digital, no matter whether it's linked to civic development or product development, are huge competitive benefits that you have. And I would say that you are quite allergic to business messages. It has to be very genuine, and the authenticity has to be high. And we are quite allergic to fake campaigns and so on. And I think you can get away with that much more when you have bigger brands and bigger languages and so on. It boils down to something that is much more narrow when you have a small language base, as you have in the Nordic countries.
Interesting. So, Brit, you're an influencer yourself.
You say so?
So, what does it mean for you to like to be called an influencer? And also I would like to ask you, how do you feel about actually working with brand partners?
Well, I'm one of those, because if you look to why do we share, we are very cautious about our networks, and that's something that every brand or everybody who communicates tend to forget. We are so very careful on what we share because we value our networks so much. And that's something we tend to forget. That's why you still see that you actually have boring leaflets that just go digital. Why would I share that? I would never do that, out of the respect for my network. So being an influencer, first of all, you have to be humble of the word influencer, for whom and for what and so on. But if you happen to have people that like to listen to what you do, you have to be very careful with that network. And that also means that I only share things that I genuinely believe that will help people further, or maybe show a side of myself that are important things to myself.
Okay. Thank you, Brit. Great lessons for all of us.
Thank you.
We'll see you later at the panel.
Yeah.
So, I'd like to welcome now Sarah. Sarah Hernandez.
Hi.
Do you have a microphone?
Oh, I'm speaking to them.
So put on your presentation. So Sarah will talk about how employees should play an important role in your influencer and advocacy strategies.
Yep.
Okay, so Sarah, do you want to maybe start with giving a brief introduction of yourself? And then it's up to you.
Okay. Thanks. Hi. My name is Sarah Hernandez, and I work at a company called Comprend. And I don't work with marketing per se, but I work with digital corporate communication. So I have a little different perspective today than might some other people. First of all, do you recognize any of these people? Anyone? No one? You do? These are actually your employees. Or they're stock photos of your employees from some of your companies. So when you're talking about influencer marketing, you should, of course, start with the ones that are closest at hand, your employees. So how do you do this? Well, first of all, you have to have a culture. Is this working? You have to have a culture that allows people to engage, use social media, share. Of course, this is Google. You all know that these people live and breathe the brand Google. They're great ambassadors. But even in your own companies, you can look at how can we inspire a culture that's open and transparent. Because people aren't going to share content if they don't feel like they get respect back or they don't get information from you. So that's the first thing to think about. And then when you have all these people, you have a sharing culture and you have an open culture, but people still have to have the policies and the guidelines and also the training and to know what can I share, how can I behave on social media, and what am I allowed to say? And to remember that when it comes to policies, not just about you cannot do this, you cannot do that, but it's also about what do we encourage you to do? Does anybody know what this service is? Anyone recognize it? One people. Actually, this you should learn what this is because this service is coming to the Nordic region within a few months, I've heard. This is a site called Glassdoor, and people can go in here, employees can go in and rate and write reviews about the companies that they work in. This is quite common in the United States. A lot of people use this and say both good things and bad things. So my point here is that you have to be aware that there are already a lot of platforms where people are discussing what it's like to be an employee at your company. And not just on these kind of services, but of course on social media at large. And I'm not saying that you should go out and monitor your employees, but it's important to be out there and know what is being said and who is saying it. Okay, so you've done the basics, right? So you have an open culture, you have policies and guidelines for your employees, you know where they are, what they're saying. Now it's time to engage them. And we can say that you have, well, sort of two different groups of people. You have the ones that are the official spokespeople, and then they have the rest of the employees. And when it comes to the spokesperson, this can be either discovering the people that are already digital influencers, because I'm sure that you have them. You have all these people that are already blogging and sharing and being thought leaders, but maybe you're not taking care of them. Maybe you're not allowing them to communicate about your brand. But it can also be the case of someone like this. This is Arne på Posten. Does anybody recognize him? Yay! So this is a guy who's worked at the Swedish post office for several years. And well, they gave him a few lessons in Twitter management and how to use social media and how to create content. And now he's one of the most respected persons within the e-commerce business in Sweden. But then, of course, you also have to look at all the other employees and figure out how can we get them engaged, how can we get them to share content. And yeah, so find, train and encourage your official spokespeople and engage the rest of the employees. And then Brit, she already said this, but you have to, of course, be aware of why do people share content. They're not just going to share something because your company puts it out there. People share content because it makes them feel smart, or because they have the opportunity to entertain someone. People like to help as well. Perhaps, let's say, they want to help their friends find a job. So that's something that you can tap into, for example, when you're working with employer branding and HR. And also to earn status and recognition, to nurture the relationships, take care of the networks, just like Brit said, and support causes. And a lot of other reasons as well. But basically, just create content that people want to share. So, in essence, make it easy for your employees. Make communication a priority within your company, because if your company isn't communicating, then why should they? And something as simple as just informing about your channels. I often get, I think it's a little bit weird sometimes when I meet companies and I know that they have 10,000 employees and then they have a Facebook page and they have 1,000 followers. Shouldn't those 10,000 employees, or at least 7,000 that I know have Facebook, be followers? Why wouldn't you follow your own company? So it's important to inform about the channels that you have. Perhaps create integrations with your intranet to make sure that people are really seeing what is being put out there. And encourage sharing in your culture. And that means both internally and externally. And of course, not just digital sharing, but the people should share knowledge and best practice and vacant jobs or whatever. So that's also important. Encourage use of social media as well. Don't, well, I think it was a very long time ago since I actually met a company that had restrictions. But encourage people to use social media, and especially LinkedIn, for instance, for professional purposes. And create content in various forms and various channels, because people share different types of information. Some people might want to share video, some people might want to share an infographic or a tweet. But it's also good to have one main platform, so people know where to find everything. Yeah, and management should set a good example. I don't have this slide now. I used to have a slide that I've used for a lot of presentations for about a year and a half, because I was at Webbdagarna, and Jan Dinkenspiel from Nordnet, he was there, and I guess he was the CEO at the time. And he said it, he doesn't actually, he's not a big social media fan. He doesn't like to use it a lot for private purposes, but he said that he has forced himself to become an early adopter, because social media and digital communication, that's the future, and he wants to be a part of that development. So management should set a good example. Why would you share something if your CEO or your boss isn't sharing it? Yeah, and you can download the presentation here. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very interesting. I think it's what strikes me here is, you know, we talk about influencer campaigns, influencer marketing, and they have all these fancy tools to find people. And what Sarah is saying is probably most of the brands haven't even started with looking within their employees, whether there could be some influencers there. You know, we run campaigns with mommy bloggers. Maybe we do have interested mommy bloggers within our companies as well. So that's really insightful to think about how you know, brand strategy and marketing strategy should really start by looking with our employees. So thank you, Sarah. Thank you very much. Now we will welcome Fefe on stage. Thank
you.
Hello, Fefe. Let me put on your presentation. This is a sophisticated presentation, this one.
Yes.
Fefe has come with his skateboard, so you know, I will leave him explain why.
Yeah, I think I need some time for that. Hi, everyone. Nice being here tonight. Can you hear me? And for everyone out there behind any IP address, I say hi to you as well. I'm here to talk about the cornerstones of influencer marketing. And I thought, since I love skateboarding and a lot of other things, I might as well just hang it up on a skateboard as well. But before we go to that, I will start from the beginning. I'm standing here because I was taking the spot for Jerry Silfwer. And as soon as I got his email, because he's hectic and he's got his neck up to work, and also he's soon to become a father. So Jerry, if you're watching this, congratulations. Anyhow, start from the beginning. Since influencer marketing, he has a big passion about bloggers outreach program, which is a great way and tactic to actually put your content in front of other people's audiences. And since he's so passionate about it, I thought I'd take that lead but go a step behind and actually give you the 5 cornerstones, what I think is the foundation of influencer marketing. My name is Fefe Kaufman, and I work as a digital officer and I'm co-founder of Leka Innovation, a little bit of a marketing here. And we create stories instead of telling them, and we do this through innovative concept and progressive communication. So let's start. I think we all could agree with that we need to know who we want to talk to and why. No? That's basically the base ingredients to any marketing formula. But often forgotten is the context. So what is context? Context can be time. Context can be a place, like here, a venue. Context can be a state of mind. Context can be a channel, touch points, mediums. And context can also be your intention. I don't know if you know this organization. It's Fatta.nu. They're fighting, and for you that don't know, Fatta is fighting for against sexual crimes and also the legislations and the law all around it. And they choose to go into a different context to address a different target group, the skateboard community, because that addresses the kids. So that's a way to change the context to your advantage. The second cornerstone, and talking about context, this is my favorite slide. I used to work up in above the Arctic Circle for many years snowboarding, so I just love it. Anyhow, but few. So to talk about few should be, you can't please everyone, can you? That's totally impossible. So address a few people, but do it remarkably. Take care of them in all sense. And by few, I also mean the followers following you. So you need to embrace them and treat them like your equals, because they will progress and also take your movement to the second stage. And by few, referring back to Jerry's bloggers outreach programs, you can also just only address a couple of bloggers, because if you do mass marketing, the authenticity will fade away, and also they will not feel special to be working with you. So a few is a good. You don't always have to do like Procter & Gamble thing. And then, you all know this, no? She's been hanging in the Louvre for since the French Revolution, and she has a unique smile. But you don't always have to do a unique content. You can also do the same content by in a unique presentation, and that gives it a bit of glamour as well. But unique content is also the most perfect way to address an influencer by respect, because they have a trade, they are a person, and by sharing unique content for every influencer, you can actually gain more value from the transaction between both of you and the authenticity. And also by unique, I mean personal, because you can never address an influencer no matter what platform by mass communication. You need to know them, you need to do research, and you need to be sincere as well. So that's unique. Moving forward, the rule of thumb for Procter & Gamble, advertising by repetition. Mass marketing for average people with average products with a lot of repetition, and it's a successful story, and they do sell a lot. But it's not that repetition could be something bad, because you can always shape it, try new angles, and you need to repeat it, because a single marketing campaign in one channel for one brand, we know that won't work. But you can always change mediums, go from film to audio. Why not do a physical object, or even just go out and do a bit of guerrilla marketing? So repeating your message in different ways is a good thing. And last but not least, I would say the foundation of everything, it's the relationship and friendship. You need to start as friends. If I would run out to the street and ask somebody to actually tie my lasers, I think the chances would be quite slim, no? Or even like, would you borrow me 2,000 crowns tonight, please? No. So you need to start as friends by sincerely asking why they should collaborate with you and where the value transaction would be. and also what you could gain from it. But as you do your campaign and you move on, and the campaign ends, you need also to follow up. And this is where people often forget. You need to stay friends. So you need to follow up, thank them sincerely and what they contributed. And this lands in the foundation for future cooperations as well. So since I brought my skateboard here, to sum it up, we got the 5 cornerstones of, what am I talking about? Influencer marketing. Anyhow, so you have context, fatta. They change context to touch a different target group. For the second thing, we have few. It's just 100 of us that got this grip tape, the sandpaper on this board. So we're selected in that sense that we're passionate about this, and that's where you have the few. And the third, unique content. On the 22nd of September, when this campaign releases, they will get so much pictures, which gives them a lot of unique content to carry on to get out their message, which is awesome, because things has to be changed. And for the fourth, we have repetition. And if you go to their site, you can download the stencil. And this is the beauty of it, because they really understood this target group. Because art, spray can art, and a lot of underground movements collide perfectly with skateboarding. So this is a perfect example for that. So you can download the stencil and you can spray fatta wherever you want. And for the fifth, staying friends, the communication they have been doing towards me during the entire time have been super friendly. And this is also why I'm standing here, trying to influence you all to actually go and do something different and try to enhance this campaign as well. So I hope you liked my 3-dimensional kind of like influencer marketing talk. And if you got any questions, you can find me on Twitter or just mail me. And if you're too scared to come and talk to me, since I got so much tattoos, I got a little bit of business cards hanging here, if you're analog. So that's thank you for me, and I hope you get something out of it. Yeah.
Thank you, Fefe. That was absolutely great. Now, next on stage, I'd like to welcome Nils. Actually, doing a bit of history. The reason, really, the man that we should be grateful for tonight is Nils. It was that a year ago?
I think so, yeah.
A year ago, we received a call from Nils at Traackr, and saying, "Oh, you guys, do you do Swedish?" So, no, we don't do Swedish. We'd love you to do Swedish. Yeah, we'd love to do Swedish too, but we're a small company, so Nils actually brought Traackr into Sweden and started to work with us as our first customer here. So thank you, Nils. Nils is going to actually share with us a real case study of an influencer campaign that he's been running using Traackr, and it's great to have you tonight. Thank you.
Thank
also
you.
because he's a bit sick, so it was a special effort to be with us.
Thank you. Is this on? All right. I'm Nils. I'm the creative director and partner at Pronto, which is a digital communications agency based in Stockholm, but working globally. So what I want to share today, we've had some great presentations on influencer marketing, why it's important, how to do it. I'm going to share a case and focus in on how we actually measure and track our influencer marketing within this case. And the case is for one of our clients, which is Wine World, one of Sweden's foremost wine importers, and specifically focused on the brand Barone di Casoli, which is a red wine from Chianti Classico. And it's also one of the top sellers in the red wine category here in Sweden. So starting off, Of course, influencer marketing, it's been around for quite a while. We as an agency has been doing it for 10 years now, and we've always sort of had the challenge of how to measure it. 10 years ago, it was more or less impossible. We sort of gave our clients reports stating that we had 10 bloggers writing about this, and that was sort of the full report. Today, we can measure a lot more, which is good. Traackr is one of the reasons why we can do that. And of course, you need to measure sort of all of your digital communications to find out what is working and what provides you the most value. So generally, what brands are up against is they have a message and they want to create some sort of conversion, perhaps a sale, perhaps you want people to visit your website or download something, etc. But at the end of the day, they want to make money. And to get the message out, you tend to use 3 different types of media online. Your own media, that could be your website, your blog, your Facebook page, your YouTube channel, etc. Channels that you yourself sort of control and where you can post stuff. Then you have the earned media, where influencer marketing comes in, where you want to get online press coverage, social media activity, etc. Basically have people spread your message for you. And then of course you can also add the paid media, where you pay for your coverage and your visibility. Could be search engine marketing, could be social media advertising, etc. And when you measure your results, you tend to look at, of course, how much activity did you yourself do in your own channels? How much engagement did you manage to create in your earned channels? And then combining all of those with perhaps paid channels as well, you tend to end up with total impressions. How many people did you reach with your message online? And then from that, the funnel sort of narrows down. From all of those impressions, how much traffic did you get to your website or wherever you were trying to direct people? How much activity did you get? And at the end of the day, how many conversions? Perhaps how many sales online? How many downloads of that document, etc., that you wanted to promote? So if we narrow in on the earned media section here, 10 years ago, you could basically not track anything online. Then the PR world realized that you need to be able to monitor online press coverage as well as printed press coverage. So you've been able to do that for a couple of years. And then social media monitoring came about too, where you're allowed to or had the opportunity to actually track social media conversations about a brand or any type of keyword you were interested in. And now, specifically with Traackr, you can sort of narrow that social media monitoring down onto influencers. So you can look at not only the overall social media world or everybody talking about you online, but actually narrow in on the few perhaps most important people and measure how your brand is doing in that group. How many conversations are you getting in that group, etc. So that's what we're doing now with Traackr, for instance. And especially we're doing this for this case. This is a Swedish campaign for Baroner i Casoli. It's at baronericasoli.se, and it's actually still an ongoing campaign. But to share some of the background, this wine brand wanted to reach a slightly younger target group than it had been reaching previously, and it wanted to engage people online and find a reason for people with the brand. So we set up. And we can also see roughly the number of impressions that we've gotten through these individuals alone. Then, of course, we can use other social media monitoring tools to see, well, how far did it spread from here? But it's really good to be able to actually start within this small group of influencers, because we see how the message sort of travels within this influential group, and that gives us a lot of benefits. So that's one of the things we're doing now, and sort of the second phase of this campaign is just starting this weekend, which you can see down here. It's starting to get some traction again for the launch of the actual wine. So when applying for this job, each applicant were actually given a unique hashtag, so we could track each person. There are about 700 people taking part, looking to get this job. So we could track how interactive people were using this hashtag. And then we actually also looked among our influencers which of these hashtags were getting the most attention when we were about to pick our finalists. So in the end, we picked out 6 finalists. And of course, we looked at how good their wine suggestion were, who they were as people, but also how much they were engaging the influencers. So you can see some of these really created a lot of engagement among the influencers, and for us it makes sense to make sure that they would get a spot among the finalists, because that will secure even more engagement for a longer period of time. In the end, we chose that guy, Rickard, over there, as the winner. He's actually not this graph, but we felt he was a better applicant for the job in the end. So basically how this sums up is, well, of course, using tools like Traackr and other tools to actually measure not only what did we do and what were the total amount of impressions, but taking that middle step of looking at how much did our influential group, the group of influencers, interact with this campaign message. You can track how are we doing within this set group of people as a brand. You can also, as we did with hashtags, use specific keywords from your project or your campaign, looking at how much or what parts of our campaign, what parts of our project did actually engage people the most. But I would say that the biggest benefit is you can actually see how people interact with each other in this network and who influences who, and also follow the progression of a campaign. And in the end, which is the big, I would say the big value of this, is to have a long-term approach. We started out with 4 people in a jury. Of course, we're going to keep the relationships going with those people, but now we have about 15 more that we know they liked what we were doing because they wrote about it and they shared it. So perhaps we could start building a relationship with them too in our next activity. And that's sort of how you start building an online ambassador program. Yeah, so that's basically the case. Thank you.
Thank you, Nils. Thank you. That was great to see influencer marketing in action. So the Twitter leaderboard contest is going on. So keep sharing content. Sam, do you want to share names of who's in the lead? Christina Norling. Who is Christina? Hi, Christina. Emily. Uh-huh. So who is this? Hello, one man. So great. So we're going to have a short 10 minutes break. You can use to have a drink, and then we'll see each other very quickly for the panel session and talk about measurement.
Jag känner mig underligt nog friskare nu när jag fått stå. Det är bra. Yes, please give us skateboards. Olika approach.
Yeah, yeah. There's a question, so I better have that. Va? Ja. Ja. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Great. Yeah. Yeah, it's good. It's good. Yeah, I think it's a topic that people really don't know so much about, so it's a good. And I've been searching yeah, about it on the net, and there's a lot of things that you can read about it. And there's one thing that I don't know if I should bring it up, but it's about this. Some people they can crack the algorithm. Some can crack the algorithm at Facebook, so they can get a lot of mentions and they rise in the charts. You know, I don't know how you handle it in your tool.
Well, we handle it because there's first,
Yeah.
technology cannot solve everything.
No.
Can you fake technology?
Always.
But
but there's a few people. There's a few loudmouths. Okay. Yeah.
then up to the marketing
Yeah.
manager.
Yeah.
Then in the selection that we space, select the people who are within the context, like Pepe say, within the context. But who are the people that are more pertinent?
Yeah. I lost my internet connection, but I got it. Everything here. Tjena. Många, ni är ju... Ja, ni kanske ska sätta er i ordning så folk vet vem som är vem. Brita och sen du. Ja. We're missing Nils.
Oh, yes. Brit? Brit? We're going to start the panel discussion. And I'm going to hand over to Peter, who will be the panel leader, animator. And Peter, it's up to you. If you could start by introducing yourself.
Yeah, I'll start.
Let's go.
Everybody hear me? Great. Hi, I'm Peter Mackhé. This is actually the first time I'm moderating this type of panel. I'm been in market research business for 10 years. I've been moderating different type of panels and asking different kind of questions. I'm running a news magazine called Dagens Analys, and we write about analysis, digital media, social media, mobile, and all these type of things that actually is quite close to what we're talking about today. So it's going to be fun, and I have a bunch of questions, and I hope that you have a lot of questions as well. So let's start up. Yeah, we got a new person here, Jeanette. You want to say something, a few words about yourself before we start up?
Sure. My name is Jeanette Agnrud. I am head of communications at the Swedish Association of Communication Professionals.
Whoa!
Should I do it again for our online viewers, maybe?
Start up.
I'm Jeanette Agnrud. I am head of communications at the Swedish Association of Communication Professionals.
All right. As I'm an old market researcher, I love this asking questions. How many of you people knew what social influencers was before you came here? Please raise your hand. I will see that about 30%. How many do you think of the marketing managers or digital people out there know what it is? Quick guess. No, nobody? No. I got a question here. What defines influencer marketing? And you, Nicolas, you're working with it. What actually defines influencer the best way? Can you please describe the question? What is a social influencer? And is it good enough that you're from Stockholm working in a specific field, or is it that you mention a lot of things, or is it that you're accurate, or what is this actually that defines so everybody understands what you get when you are into the field? I think we should actually clarify what it is, and everybody can have. You've been working with it for some time as well, so please, everybody who can.
Do I start? Okay. Well, when we talk about influencers, we like to use the definition of the word of mouth association, WOMA, they call themselves. And they call an influencer is someone who has the capability to make people think what they would otherwise not have thought, or do something that they would otherwise not have done. And I think what it means is that an influencer is someone who can have an impact on other people. I think that's our definition. I don't know, you guys, what do you think?
Yeah, I would agree. And if you look at the online space, I would add that, of course, that person needs to have some sort of online presence. I think a common misconception is that an influencer, you're automatically an influencer if you have a lot of reach online. And that's definitely not enough. It's a combination of reach, relevance, and credibility. So it's not always the case that the blogger with the most readers or the Twitter account with the most followers is the biggest influencer. But I would agree with your definition. It's a person who holds the potential or the possibility to actually influence other people's opinions and behaviors about things.
Anybody else wants to elaborate the question, or is it good enough? I saw in your presentation there, I had a good thing that you had a engagement rate, and you have that you have the right type of impressions. How do you pull this apart? How do you value the different things? You want to have reach, and you want to have the right type of reach. Where do you pull the string?
I think that that also varies. I think it's very common in the marketing world to only value a high number in terms of impression, which I think is a mistake. I think what's happening now, which is good, is that we get better and better at actually evaluating the impressions. Anything from an influencer saying something to their audience, which in my sort of world then means that will reach a relevant target group. But also, social media ads today, where you can actually target people based on their interests and their lifestyles. So it's hard to say where do you actually draw the difference between relevant and not relevant traffic, but it's key to actually focus on it and make sure that we don't only value a high number. So for instance, the case I showed where we had roughly 700,000 impressions, I know that most of those will be high relevant because they came from people who talk about wine and food. If I instead would use a banner ad and place it on a random website and get 700,000 impressions, it would probably not be as relevant. It's still sort of a tricky landscape to navigate, but things are changing, and it's just key to keep that in mind.
Do you feel that you can cheat the score? I talked to you before that because you have the scoring system. Do you think people can actually want to crack the code, or is it possible?
Definitely possible. People do cheat a lot in this industry.
Yeah.
Let's be honest about it. People do cheat, and there are companies who are, basically selling bad traffic. You could easily get like 1,000 new Twitter followers if you want. You can definitely get 10,000 views on YouTube if you want. But it's bad traffic. But people make money doing that. So that's one of the problems in our industry, definitely.
Nicolas, can you elaborate if there's some type of way you can actually take care of it in the system?
Yes, I mean, I think what Nils was saying is that the capability of people to generate engagement is one of the key criteria. And that's obviously one of the key way that you can measure whether people have real following or not. So do their content actually create real action and engagements? So I think that's an interesting KPI to really look at when you try to understand the impact that people can have. Jeanette?
I was just, perhaps I'm being very naive, but I'd like to think that an organization that relies on fake engagement is not going to last very long. It's not really a truly communicative organization. It's not really driving sales. It's not really driving engagement. And eventually that's going to evaporate all your brand and all your trust. I know that probably is sort of some utopia, but I think we're getting there.
Yeah, and if I can just add to that, I agree. I think we're in a phase still where a lot of people do not fully know how good online marketing works, and a lot of people perhaps not feeling familiar with the space as a whole will just focus on getting a big number and showing that to a boss somewhere, and then perhaps giving money to these types of organizations. But I agree, it's a problem that's gonna disappear in a couple of years. But right now we still have it.
It's adding to that thread as well. It's interesting. It's a problem that you have when you start planning. So how do you select maybe the channels or the people that you want to work with? To be honest, also brands have been cheating a lot. I mean, how many brands have actually bought fans for their Facebook page and actually have an engagement level that is less than 0.1%? So it's not just individuals or influencers. It's like brands themselves and marketing people themselves have been just cheating on the real attractiveness or engagement of their page. But I think this is reverts back, Peter, to the first question that you were asking. It's just like, how do you define influencers? So it's someone that has an impact. So, for example, when we made the ramp up to the event here and tried to communicate on the event, we know, who has had most impact. So we know that the content shared by some people has more impact than others. And so Brit, for example, has been sharing on the event, and she's driven a a huge amount of people to the website and to the events page. So I would argue somehow that in the context of that event, to use Fei's element of context, Brit for me has been the most influential person tonight.
I got a question for you, Brit. From your introduction there, you said it's all about involving people and you have to take care of people. Do you think that when you target people, do you think you can hurt? Do you understand what I mean? That you can actually, if you start influencing people, do you think that because you have to take care of your social network? Or do you think there's some issue that could cause a problem, or you only see possibilities with the influencer marketing? That's my question. Tough one.
No, but the key to be successful is to be very careful on who you select, and that it is a true relation that both party benefits from. So the key issue is to actually be very good at selecting those people, and do that with, what's the English word for fingertoppskänsla? Sorry? Ja, und ich bin Deutsch. Fingerspitzgefühl. So you really, it's a craft, and it's a quite intriguing craft actually. And what I would say that when using, I haven't looked into Traackr before I came here today, but one key element is really to be able to spot the coming ambassadors and influencers. What you do in Sweden generally is that you it's a small community, so you know the ones that would be the strong influencers. But I think the really intriguing part is that you can see the up and coming influencers, and you can create such strong bonds to them to really be the one acknowledging them and involving them in what you do. Instead of those ones that already gone over the peak. Yes, exactly. Skip me, choose somebody else. Jeanette, you're about the measuring. How do you measure the return of investment on social media? This is like please give me the skinny.
If I got a penny for every time I get asked the question, do you have an officially approved method? I always answer that would be like hiding away the Holy Grail. I actually had a conversation the other week. We're about to launch a big research project and about communicative organizations, and I begged the professors to make one of the goals to take to research a method for measuring and evaluating communicative organization. And they say no, we don't do it that way, because communications is not like medicine, for example, where you try out the medicine in the laboratory before you apply it to the patient, whereas in communications you apply it to the patient first, and then you have the laboratory find out why the patient was killed or got better. As I get asked this question a lot by our members, obviously they're expectant about all the possibilities that are out there, but I also have great concerns about not having the skills necessary to meet these expectations, and I think a bit unnecessarily, because we've been actually doing measuring and evaluation of communications for quite a long time, but we seem to think that the numbers we come up with are not valid, especially not when the CFO comes along with their Excel sheets and bangs us on the head, and the things we come up with just doesn't seem solid compared to that. But I think we should not have such low self-confidence about our numbers. And since accountancy has been around for some 500 years, and we've been around for some 60, 70, I have... so I hope we're getting there.
I have a question for Brit, Jeanette and Nils about the Swedish market. How do you think the Swedish market is... understanding the force of social media. I know the media business, they're all about push media. They don't think that they actually have to be in social media because our take care of themselves. And you can see that Coca-Cola went with search, start selling the search beverage through social media. There was a storm and they got people who want to search, and then they will start selling by Amazon. So it's all a viral experiment from Coca-Cola. How ready is the Swedish market for going really social? And which businesses do you think are in the forefront and in the back?
If I get started, I'd say that Sweden is pretty much on the forefront of things.
Yeah.
And I definitely would say that a lot of Swedish brands and businesses are catching up with the social media way. So it's definitely, we see a lot of ad budgets going into social or digital to begin with, and then social. So also for us working on multiple markets, I would say Sweden is among the forerunners in that. And in terms of different types of businesses, I would say fast-moving consumer goods, any type of lifestyle-driven brand, and brands perhaps still targeting slightly younger audiences are ahead of the game, and a lot of industries that are perhaps seen as being slow movers in general, and perhaps who do not see themselves as communicating to individuals. I would say business to business in general is behind still in terms of grasping that their target groups are also social individuals living a digital life.
Of course. And do you see that Sweden is like a test market for companies abroad because we're very digital?
For some, yes. Not for all, but we do see that with some clients that Sweden is sort of the first market they go to in terms of testing out social media marketing and influencer marketing.
Yeah. Jeanette and Brit, do you have anything you can add?
Just the fact that the view of Sweden as being in the forefront can sometimes sort of make you feel that, oh my God, I don't know this. I'm supposed to know this, and I don't. How can I possibly hide this fact away and sort of pretend that I actually know what I'm doing, and therefore not getting the education or the training that you need to be able, because you do need training and you do need education, and it's a skill and a craft, as Brit was saying. So it's sometimes a bit hämmande. Vad heter hämmande? Restricting. Thank you.
I think so. Your question was if the Swedish market was
ready for the social media, and do they really understand the force that there's so many people. You can see that 2/3 of the Swedish people are in Facebook. Obviously, is media today.
And Facebook is the problem, or Instagram, because what you see is that you tend to evaluate these platforms in conjunction on how you see upon them. So if you think that Instagram is just a platform where you brag about your latest vacation, or at Facebook you just tell about the good stuff, then it's really hard to think strategically about these platforms. So our largest problem in regarding to the development of social media is that we do tend to make our personal views on every platform steer how we work with them strategically, which is so stupid. And it would be like me as a media strategist would only be giving advice on what papers to read based on my personal preferences, which would do me a very crappy media strategist. So that's really a strong problem, and that's linked to what you were saying, the need of education. And really you need to be able to grasp the aspect of the strong possibilities by one individual and the distribution power they have. And then another mistake we do is that we do tend to talk about the digital influencers like they only live digital. The word of mouth is still done in the huge part by us talking to each other. It's not so many people that are totally digital. They also, if you look on what you do during a day, you still talk to people, but you get the digital stuff that you carry further on. And if I should give two examples, I have to say the Swedish police, not only because I evaluated what they did in social media, and not only because they are here, but because they have done an absolutely amazing job that you can be inspired of. Their thorough process on how they made the Swedish police force ready to do that, and they rolled out 100 Facebook pages, over 100 Twitter accounts, and we do know that there are a lot of challenges linked to that. People have a strong opinion on the police force, but also a great need to give information, and so that's one good example. And then a very current example is, of course, the political parties. And then I have, and there I have some favorites, and then maybe I should mention the environmental party, and I don't have any links to that in ideology, whatever, you know. Political preferences. I'm a Norwegian citizen, so I didn't even vote, just to make that clear. But they have been very good at finding a way of being relevant and being able to lift in their politics when people were discussing their issues and so on. And also the feminist party that was almost able to reach the 4% level. And with small resources made a very good job to be present.
A huge return on investment for them.
Extremely, yes, yeah.
I would like to get some questions from the audience. I got so many questions I could sit here all day, but please.
Very good talks. I enjoyed all of it so far. My question is about using too many social medias, like websites and Pinterest and Facebook and Twitter and all of those. What do you think about using too much of it?
Your question is that you think people use too many?
No, it's more like how to kind of work with too many, or should I use all of them, or should I use like one and focus on that?
Yeah, if I get started, I'd say that if you can, you should use as many as possible that are relevant for your target group. It all comes down to resources. I mean, if you set up 20 different accounts and you can't keep up with them, then it's not a good idea. If you can, it can be a good idea because using different outlets means you can reach target groups in different places and perhaps even different target groups. And also from an overall digital point of view, having a strong social media presence in multiple outlets, multiple channels will also be good for your Google presence when people actually search for stuff. So if you can, it's good to be in multiple places, but of course you need to match it to where your target group actually spends their time and where they want to meet you, so to speak.
I totally agree on what you maybe should think and dare to do, because we do tend to do the same content in every channel, to have a clear channel strategy. If we choose Instagram, what should we do there? And maybe I dare you to decide at one word, or at the most one sentence that really grasps what you want to do in Instagram or Facebook or Pinterest or whatever. Because that helps you, and be sure not to just put out the same content in all the channels. Then it helps you, and maybe decide, let's see what's most corporate and what's the least corporate, and then you would find that the most corporate would be LinkedIn and your Google Plus page, and the least corporate would be Instagram. And what do I want to do there then? So then you do channel strategy for the platforms.
Another? The police, do you have something you want to share? I heard it was a beautiful example.
Yeah, share of some of your challenges.
Yes, tell us something that really worked out, because it's really nice to hear.
Some of our biggest challenges right now is how to
can you pass the mic there?
Yeah, we have like 1 million followers, and never pretty much never paid for it. But as Brit said, we have 110 official police page around in Sweden with a quite local content. And we have 50 plus Twitter and only 3 Instagram accounts. But our biggest problem right now is how we get this together, how we can get hold of it, so we don't miss any interaction, because we have 100,000 interaction over the time.
So what's your problem? You want to measure it, or you want to?
Not so measuring, but more that because we're a government, we have by law, we have to answer all questions by law.
Yeah.
So our biggest problem is that since we have in a week, we probably have like 100,000 writing to us each week.
Yeah.
And we have to, it's pretty much Emma Silman there who's sitting and asking and answering every questions. So she's really fast. But our biggest problem is how we can get a hold of all this information, because so many want to interact with us.
Yeah. I can pass it. I just have one question for you.
Yeah.
Do you see that the people help each other on the social media?
Yeah, a lot. And what we do there, we pretty much just go in, just as Daniel said, that's the right answer. So we confirm by the police that that's the right answer. So because we have a lot of wrong answers as well.
Okay, you get wrong information.
Yeah, so they get wrong information. But you're allowed to throw knives at in the city of Stockholm. But no, you're not. So I have to correct them. But our biggest problem is just to get how to not lose the interaction, not to lose the willingness to interact with us.
So that manage the social flow and answer.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. In a way, that ties back to the previous question of how many places should you be in. It's not an easy thing to solve. Today there are a lot of good tools for this, a lot of social media management tools. I don't know if you're using any of those, but that would be a starting point. Use a tool that will basically collect all of your social media presence into one tool with one login, where you can see all the interactions happening with you, and you can actually even sort of distribute the tasks to take care of that internally. So there are a number of those tools, Sprouter and HubSpot and a bunch of those. So I would say that's a starting point, but then of course having the staff to do it, and realizing that you need to keep the conversations going, or if people start asking you questions and you don't reply, that's going to be a problem for you. So it's not a quick fix, but at least tools are getting better and better at that problem, because it's a pretty fairly common problem.
What was the name of the tools that you talking about?
Sprouter is one of them. There are hundreds. Google social media management tools, and you'll find a bunch instead of me just saying a bunch of names.
I can throw in a question. I hope you come with more questions. What are about the moral aspect of the social media? There's kids out there. How do you channel that you have? You had a wine question, and how do you see that people plus 18? You know.
Yeah, it's that's a tricky one. Of course, we as an agency are really focused on never communicating to kids, basically, in terms of the alcohol industry, especially here in Sweden. It's very, very restricted. So we need to give a lot of thought into everything we do. We basically do two things. When looking at what type of platforms we're on, we need to follow the 75% rule, which basically says that if 75% of the users of, let's say, Instagram or Facebook are of age, of legal drinking age, we can communicate on that platform. And the other one is to stay in touch. In Sweden, we have this guy called Alkoholgranskningsmannen. It's actually a person who's in charge of making sure that the alcohol industry stays within the rules and regulations for how to do marketing. So every time we do anything for a wine client or any type of spirits brand, we need to check with him first. So we actually tell him what we're about to do and get his input on that before launching anything. But it's the digital aspect of it is tricky because on a lot of platforms you can fake your age. We can't really, I mean, if you go on Facebook and say you're 18 and you're not, we can't really see if that's correct or not. So, of course, you know, any communication will reach people who are perhaps not of age, no matter how strictly you try to manage it. But at least we try to follow all the rules that are applicable.
Anybody else got a question here? Can I get the mic? Oh.
You mentioned about Sweden being like the center or the hub for the Nordic social media presence and digital presence. And I've been working for large companies here, and usually the headquarters is here in Sweden. And then we are forced like to drive social media and digital communications from Sweden out to Finland, to Denmark, to Norway. And do you have any experience of this? Does it work well? What are the dangers of doing it? Do we really understand the other three countries, not only the languages? Sometimes it's a problem.
Someone here can answer you.
We get it to the audience.
I work
Please,
for.
yeah.
I'm Philip. Me and Max here work for MTV, and we have we do social media and PR for 9 countries, in the Nordics as well, and in local languages. And the key is quite easy to have local staff, and that's what we have. So that's the short answer.
Did you go the wrong way in the beginning?
No.
You did it right from the beginning?
Yeah, because we have our websites in local languages, and we had those first. So the web editors also do the social media. Easy.
Okay. Anybody else? If I think maybe we should round up. If every one of you could give 1 or 2 tips, how should you make a successful social influencer impact? What do you do? Is it measurements? How do you get success in this business?
If I start, I would say listening. Make sure you actually take the time to get to know your target group and your influencers, and approach them like you would approach any friend, basically, and try to not think about the fact that you're trying to sell a product for a minute, but rather try to think about how do I build a relationship and provide value to this person.
I'd like to connect with what Nils just said, because what you want to achieve is a place in the value network where you're irreplaceable. Very few of us are really irreplaceable, but you want to be perceived as irreplaceable. And what do I have that is unique to these people, and why should they need me, and why should they want to interact with me? And that goes back to what you were saying about product development and business development, which is, from my point of view, the most important reason to actually do influencer marketing in the first place. I would also like to address also what Brit was saying earlier about the risk that the influencer is taking on your behalf when interacting with you. And in a sense, the greater the risk this person takes, because an influencer has power, and power is by default suspicious. And the moment you get enough traction, people start questioning your agenda and what is really behind this, and is there money involved, which is even worse, and really assessing the risk that your influencer is taking, and perhaps it's even more valuable. The greater the risk, the more value.
Yeah, so what more should I add? I really want to remind and inspire you to look for the coming influencers, because that's so key, and that's such a wonderful relationship to develop, because you give them a platform and you build something together, and to be able to see that, and they will work together with you for a long time, because you have helped them to develop as well. What would you? I wanted to add something that you were saying. If you go, and then because I had something more.
Okay, I'm just gonna add a word on the measurement side to finish off. One of the questions that was asked is, what should I measure? How do I measure? How do I calculate ROI? I think here there's a fairly simple answer to that, actually, is what do you want to achieve? So what are you doing this in the first place? And then you measure the impact that you're having. Because if you remember what we talked about, influence is about creating impact. Okay, that's all it's about. It's creating impact. So if, for example, my objective was to have people register for an event in Stockholm, my measurement is how many people actually register and come, and what are the quality of these people. So I'm setting my measurements against that goal. Okay, so the advice is try to move away from outputs. Like, it's good to have KPIs along the way to guide you, like how many mentions, how many shares have I achieved. But let's be mindful of really what I'm trying to achieve for my company, and let's measure that. I think that's the key advice in terms of measurement. Brit, do you remember now what you wanted to say?
Otherwise, I have a question for Britta, if you don't have. How do you make people to engage? That's like because you want people. First of all, you want the right people, right? Then you want them to engage with the right. Because I see in the media industry, you see people creating a lot of accounts, then they don't really engage. But what is the factor to get people engaged?
Talk to them, involve them, and if you look at the media business, for example, if you write an article today, that's only half of your job. You have to work with it before, during, and after, and then be able to involve and track the people that actually interact with that story, for example, and gives you a good insight to coming stories and perspectives, and that is easily to address to any product or service that you see. But one aspect, and maybe some of you, depending on what business you have, might find that influencer is a hard word, and maybe nobody wants to carry our message like that. But if you look at the Swedish police, for example, for them being able to identify influencers be very important if you look at the crisis communication, for example. If you need to get information out fast, that helps you a lot to know who's the one with the greatest impact. And that is so intriguing to mentioning the police in that context, because at the same time we do know that if anybody, it's the governments and those kind of bodies that really have to talk to everybody. But if they want to get out information fast, it's really important to start with the right people. Yeah.
Fefe had one thing that I liked. He said it's all about context. Do you agree about it?
Context and relevance.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Peter. One more question.
Great.
Last minute. That was just in time.
How do I come in contact with an influencer or a thought leader? If I want to talk to someone who's a thought leader, if I want to get in contact with someone who can help me with my brand or who can do something with my company, how would I do that the best way?
You answer, and I say first, never underestimate the power of the digital handshake. See them, talk to them, and tell them why you think they are interesting to you. Be very clear about that. And then you wanted to say.
I think one of the someone that we work with in the US on that topic. It's a big topic. And a topic that brands really struggle with. So engagement. I encourage you to look at it on our blog. There's a whole lot of series about called the Engagers. How do you engage with people? So it's complicated. And one of them was saying, you're not gonna, ask someone to marry you on your first date. Okay. And so you have to build that relationship over time. And what she says, you have to give, and get, maybe. All right. So, and I think that says a lot about maybe the etiquette, the influencer etiquette.
I think we write about it a lot in Dagens Analys, and the thing is that you have to interact. It's not a push media. Anytime somebody likes, you should thank them. You should, as soon as you see people, they start spreading the word more and more. But it's not a push media. You can never put out anything on social media and not respond on it. That's like a biggest no-no.
All right. I think it's time. Thank you very much. I think we have, before the final roundup, Sam, can you give us the results?
So, all changed in the second half.
All changed.
All
Christina, what happened? No more battery.
Ola maintained his dominance pretty solid throughout. We had a new entry from Oliver Lopez.
Oliver?
But our winner, brand new entry, and I will say the Twitter handle, because I'm not quite sure how to pronounce the first name. It's Web Redactoren.
Hey!
Congratulations.
What is your name? Well, you have an hour together to try to pronounce each other's names. Well, thank you, everyone. I'd like to thank the speakers who made up time for this and share these great insights. I'd like to thank you all for joining us tonight. I hope you enjoyed your time, you found it useful. Please join us for drinks afterwards. I'd like to thank also our video team here, did a great job, Kim and Jacqueline, and United Spaces for their support. And again, special thank to Delphine, who's not here today, but made all this possible. Have a good evening.
Bra svar.